Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast, Kamala Harris says she wants to build a border wall. Can't make this stuff up. Plus, Zuckerberg from Facebook admits he censored you and me because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris during COVID, and so people died. We got a great show for you today. We're live on X, we're live on Rumble, we're live on Team DML, and we're all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son, Denny, and on the controls is Ryan. Ryan's got some new gadgets today, so if things go a little bit slippery, you're going to have to forgive him. I just want to give everybody a quick update right now. Today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it will last for about 36 hours. We have a one-day DML's birthday celebration BOGO event. My birthday is tomorrow, August 28th. We're going to start it today. It lasts for 24 hours. I don't do the BOGOs too often. I can only do it for a day. The inventory is limited. Joe Biden's killing me, just like he's killing you. Just like Harris is going to kill us if we continue on this path. So dmlcbd.com/BOGO. If you got the DML News app tonight at 6 p.m., we'll give you the alert. It's first come, first serve. I can tell you this. I mean, usually we have thousands of gummies in stock. We've got about 220. So that kind of gives you the indication of how low inventory is right now, and that's the way we kind of survive with Joe Biden in office. So when I think back on COVID, I think about all the innocent people who died who didn't have to. I think about how it is that the Democrats and the entire world, the liberal freaks, the people who want you just to always believe that the walls are craving in, clamping down on you, caving in, I should say, and that the sky is falling. When it was all happening, I knew it wasn't that bad. This is the flu. Why are we being told not to be with our loved ones, not go to mom's house for Christmas, not celebrate somebody's birthday? Even worse, why were we restrained from visiting our loved ones in nursing homes or in hospitals? We were told that a vaccine would keep you safe from the virus. It would definitely keep you out of the hospital, and there's no way you would ever die. In fact, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they sort of looked at people like me who didn't get the vaccine because I didn't trust it. I said it was just done too quickly. I don't like the way that it's being pushed upon us. Something seems wrong. They blamed people like me for being the cause of others dying. In fact, Joe Biden said, this is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. It was very insulting at the time. I remember just screaming at the television and thinking all sorts of thoughts, some I'll never be able to repeat. I always felt like I was being censored. It was sort of like this uncanny seventh sense that said, why when I post to Facebook, why when I post to Twitter, why when I post anywhere, do I feel like my posts aren't going anywhere? How can it be that we've got what many will say is the most crazy global crisis of our entire lifetime, let alone maybe our existence, and yet out of the 1.5 million people who follow me on Facebook, only 20 people want to respond to my question about the vaccine and its efficacy and its safety? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. Well, last night, I got a lot of my answers, and I was furious. And unlike most times when I come in here and I just let my fury blow the microphone out, I'm going to keep calm and I'm going to keep collected. Because I think that's what the left wants us to do. They want us to lose our brains. They want us to pull our hair out. They want us to scream and say ugly things to them that they could later on hold against us. Last night on Twitter, or better known as X, I saw a blaring breaking news come across my feed. Mark Zuckerberg was responding to congressional testimony that he had given a year ago and a collection of documents that had to be submitted. And he wrote a letter to Jim Jordan, the representative out of Ohio, and he basically said that he was ashamed, that he regretted censoring the American people during COVID-19, just as an example. He said he regretted it, but that the Biden administration, Kamala Harris administration, was forcing him, pressuring him. Ultimately, he tried to push back, or at least he claims, but in the end, Facebook decided to coalesce and started silencing people like me and like you and doctors. That's more important, because I'm an opinion, you're an opinion. We're storytellers of things we're seeing and things we know. But doctors like Peter McCullough or Robert Malone, who are renowned experts in their field, people who have always been trusted and published worldwide up until COVID, when they said this doesn't make sense. Many of these people were kicked off the platform, if not silenced. And so think about that for one moment. The U.S. government wanted to push an agenda, and they told some of the most powerful companies in the world, who today can basically be chalked up as communication utilities, they told them to shut us up, so this way the truth couldn't get out, even if it was satire or comedy. If somebody was making a joke about COVID vaccines, it had to come down. My friends, this is the most dangerous thing you can ever do to a free society. It is more dangerous than the border being open. The reason why they created the Second Amendment was to protect the First Amendment. There's a reason why the First Amendment is listed first, because it is the most important. Our ability to ask questions, to voice concerns, to give opinions, and to speak freely is the bedrock of the United States of America. And any person, I don't care how rich, how powerful, how smart, or how dumb, who gets in the way of that should know that when they do it, they face life in jail if found guilty. But instead, what we have today is we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris destroying this country, admitting to the fact that they told Facebook to take down our comments, and nothing will happen to them. Zero. People died because of that. There is no doubt that the math works out that way. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris tell Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most powerful men in the world with the most biggest media platform there is in the world when it comes to communications back and forth, they tell him, do not allow the Dennis Michael Lynches, do not allow the Joe Blows, do not allow the Susie Qs to say anything negative about that vaccine. Do not let them question whether masks are effective. Do not let them criticize or ridicule anybody who believes in 6-foot distancing. And if they say anything about them not being able to visit their grandmother or mother in a nursing home, shut them up. Shut them up. And if it's a doctor, and a credible doctor, kick them off. That right there is a deadly sin. And I don't use deadly lightly. Because the message was not given out, because the questions were not asked, because the warnings were not issued, people couldn't make good decisions. They were scared. The fear-mongering put them into such a place to where you made them compromise their better thoughts, their better judgment. And they took a vaccine that had no right being out on market. Old people, vulnerable people, children, forced to take a poison that to this day, I guarantee if you're one of the people who took that vaccine and you get an ache or a pain or a cramp of some kind and you just don't feel right, the first thing that goes into your mind is that vaccine. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris showed America what they're all about. They're not about you. They're not about me. They're not about we. They're about them. They're about control. They're about making one world order and destroying everything that this country was built on. You know, you see these freaks out there on the college campuses. You see them out there at the DNC or the RNC or wherever they are, screaming and chanting for free, free Palestine, from the sea to wherever they call it. Death to Jews and death to America and burning the flag. And these people will vote Kamala Harris, no doubt. They're never going to vote Donald Trump. And the craziest thing about these people in championing for Kamala Harris, including the over 200 people, Republicans, who tie back to have worked for Romney and McCain and Bush, who just came out yesterday, sent a letter to USA Today saying that they are endorsing Kamala Harris. The very method to which they used to call out their love affair with Kamala will be stripped from them. Because the number one way that Kamala Harris will see to it that this country goes socialism and then communism and one world order is the first thing she's got to do is take away that First Amendment. It's the most powerful thing that makes America what it is. In other countries, you can't speak your mind. In the UK right now, if you even post a little joke about the migrants that have taken over that country, you're going to jail. The fear that you lose your freedom will always hang over you as a black cloud. And even that, one day maybe they would call me a racist for referring to a black cloud as the mean cloud. You won't be able to say anything. You will live in complete fear. You won't post on social media. You won't tune in to Tucker Carlson or Dennis Michael Lynch. Hell, we won't be here. I said this to you last week, and I'm double downing this week. I said it to you last week, not knowing that that letter from Mark Zuckerberg to Jim Jordan would reveal how it is that the Biden administration censored you and me, totally disregarded the United States Constitution and the First Amendment. There is a wide, deep effort in this country by the radical left to silence you. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Because if you did vote for Kamala, and if Kamala wanted to protect Palestine over Israel, and you ever came out against her, if you said something that you disagreed, she'd shut you up. If you kept going, she'd throw you in jail. Without access to the truth, you don't have a republic, and you certainly don't have a democracy. These people have the audacity to say that Donald Trump is trying to destroy democracy, that he is a threat to democracy. You have never, ever heard Donald J. Trump say that he was going to take away your right to speak. He has never tried to censor you. If this country elects Kamala Harris, the biggest crimes will be those of hate crimes. They will go to number one on the FBI list. If you as much as criticize an illegal alien for coming over the border, you'll be a hater. You'll be brought up on charges. If you as much as say anything about the black community and its struggles, you'll be brought up on charges. Talk about Muslims, talk about atheists, talk about anything that they don't want you to talk about, you'll be brought up on charges. Now I'm going to support this a little bit. I'm going to show you a video. For those of you who are only listening, let me paint the picture. There's a mother. She's in Arizona. She's at what appears to be a town hall meeting. And the dais is filled with city officials. The woman has grievances of some kind, so she gets up to the podium and she starts to voice those grievances. And in doing so, she actually names one of the people who is a worker for the city. She is told to stop. You're not allowed to say that. You agreed to our rules when you walked into this public government forum. You agreed that you would not issue anybody's name publicly, even though they're a public servant. And she said, wait a second. You're taking away my First Amendment rights. Now, I'm going to let the video unfold. But again, for those of you who can't see it, towards the end, a police officer is called in. And that police officer manhandles this woman, putting her arms behind her back forcefully while her little 10-year-old girl sits there, cries. And the mother is basically dragged out of the court for nothing other than wanting to speak freely, something that she is entitled to under the U.S. Constitution. Ryan, play her video.
There are numerous public records requests that I have open right now that are, quote, pending legal review that I am entitled to request.
I've got to interrupt you here because...
Okay, are you going to stop the timer?
This is the public meeting forum that you agree to when you speak, and I want to read this to you, that there are oral communications during the city council meeting may not be used to lodge charges or complaints against any employee of the city or members of the body, regardless of whether such person is identified in the presentation by the name or by any other reference that tends to identify him or her.
That's all fine, well and good, but that's a violation of my First Amendment rights.
So that's, well, this is your warning, okay?
A warning for what?
A warning for attacking the city attorney personally.
This is all factual information.
It doesn't matter.
You're violating my First Amendment rights.
This is what you agree to when you first speaking. This is the form.
It is unconstitutional, Mayor Hall.
Well, it's not unconstitutional.
It is.
And if you're
the Supreme Court has upheld. I could get up here and I could swear at you for 3 straight minutes, and it is protected speech by the Supreme Court. It is.
No, you can't.
Why don't you look at case law?
No, you can't.
I can.
So if you want to be
also the chair is engaged in a debate. So
do you
point
want
of
to be
order.
escorted out of here? Do you want to be escorted out of here?
You're violating my First Amendment rights.
Talking.
You are violating my First Amendment rights.
That's your opinion.
It's not a matter of opinion.
Do you want to be escorted out, Ms. Massey? Because that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen in the future also. Anytime you attack
That's why you change the rules.
Or any
That's why you change the rules.
This has been on the back of this form.
I understand, Mayor Hall, but that is completely unconstitutional.
No, it's
You're
not.
Also engaging in debate, and so you should actually be yielding the floor to somebody else managing.
Chief, could you have somebody come down here and escort Ms. Massey out?
Really? Is that necessary?
Chamber? Yes, I think it is.
In front of my 10-year-old daughter, you're going to escort me out for expressing my First Amendment rights.
She can go with you.
I'm not leaving.
Well,
Did you just sit down with me?
I'm expressing my first. Do not touch me. Do not put your hands on me.
Can you just sit down with me?
Do not put your hands on me.
Come on out.
Do not put your hands on me.
Come out with me now before you get arrested. Do you understand?
Are you detaining me?
Yes.
Why am I being detained? Under what charges? Under what charges?
okay, so
I have personal property. Hold on. You cannot contact me.
Yeah, I know. She can go out there. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go into E-session.
That right there is very upsetting to see, not only because the woman is manhandled, but because what you see is your Constitution being shredded right in front of you. A total disregard for the rules of this country, and even law enforcement isn't standing up for the woman. That police officer should have said, you know what, I don't think it's right for me to drag her out. She has a constitutional right to speak her mind. You know, Dennis, I on Twitter, I've been posting a lot of clips. And some of the clips are from this podcast. Other clips are from years past. Sadly, a lot of the clips that I am putting together are from my first immigration movie back in 2009, 2010. And with the exception of, me being a little bit more wrinkled than I was back then, you wouldn't be able to tell that those movies are 12 years ago. You would think that they were just 12 days ago, because the world of immigration, the world of illegal immigration, has been an ongoing nightmare that remains as it was, even worse. And as I'm going through the clips, I was like, holy cow. I was reminded of something. My first film on illegal immigration, I think, was pretty much the best. And I had a deal to run it in 45 million homes on a cable network. I forgot all about this. And the guy that gave me the contract for the cable company was stringing me along. Oh, I'm on vacation. Come here, come there. And I'm like, well, I was like, guy, man, we're running out of time. I want this before the election. I want it before the election. This is going into 2012. I said, I want it before the election. So he's like, no problem, we'll get it. So finally he invites me in to sign. It's the last day where, we would have enough timing to get the thing out there. And I go in, I travel 3 hours into the city, and we sit down, and he comes to me, and he says, sorry, Dennis, we changed our mind. I said, you changed your mind? What do you mean you changed your mind? You left me, why didn't you tell me this months ago? You left me with nowhere else to go. My movie's not going to get out there. And I heard myself speaking. And I said, you son of a gun. It's not the word I used, but I said, you did this on purpose to make it so my film would never get out there. And he had no response. That sort of censorship has been going on for a long time. But now what we're seeing with this woman being dragged out, what we're seeing in the UK where people are going to prison because they're saying things that are considered insulting. If Kamala Harris gets into office, what just was proven last night through Zuckerberg's letter where he makes this admission that we were censored, my warning is not overblown or sensationalized. It's valid.
Look, I think we have to have a pretty objective view here, and it's an unfortunate reality. I think most people, I'm not going to say all, but I would say a very heavy majority of people in power, whether it's an elected position or even the head of a multinational company, despise the idea of free speech, simply because free speech allows the counterpoint to their observations and their direction and how they feel about things and how they view things. I mean, most companies, when you reflect on, okay, how's our progress doing? You want feedback, you want, maybe critical assessment. And companies do that. But if it gets to a point where the critical assessment is an actual criticism of your leadership, because your leadership, as we just saw with what happened in Arizona there, has some red flags, essentially, they don't want that addressed, and they want to shut you up. And you could be a mother of four who's just trying her best to really get an objective truth out. They will get the guards on you, and those guards, unfortunately, are abided by the paycheck or their reputation in some cases, because as soon as you disrespect the orders, you may get stripped of your badge, you may never be hired again in any kind of law enforcement, and they just shut you up. And like you just said, when you went to go do your movie, I'm sure maybe there were people within that company and establishment said, oh, this is great content. This needs to be out there. This is a good message of what the hell is happening. And you got that higher up that says, no, we don't want that message because we actually benefit off of this. And they shut you up. And that's the cold, hard truth, is that I think the First Amendment needs to be more protected now than ever before, because as soon as that's stripped, you could just kiss free speech or the idea to speak your mind goodbye. And we've seen that in the UK.
And that's the incredible part, because if you went online and said something along the lines of, listen, I was given the Second Amendment to protect my First Amendment, and so anybody who tries to take away my First Amendment, be ready to know that I am a gun-holding person. You'd be on a list. You'd be on a list for nothing other than just pointing out what the U.S. Constitution states. And so we are looking at a situation right now where videos like that woman getting pulled off is just, oh, well, all right, and you flip by and you go to the next one. No. That's the video where you got to stop and share, because you say to yourself, wait a second. If the Harris administration, God forbid, doesn't like what I'm saying, they're going to shut me down. They're going to start with turning off my microphone or my ability to put a message on Facebook. They're going to stop my ability to put up a video on YouTube. And that's how it starts. When I go out to the public square and try to scream at the top of my lungs at what's going on, then they're going to wind up putting me in jail. And how long until you're in a firing system, or that you just wind up disappearing in general? You know who's got the biggest target on his back right now? Let me tell you something. If you think Donald Trump has a target on his back right now, which he does, when they take that target off his back, if they do indeed win this election by way of, crook, that will go on Elon Musk. He's going to be the number one guy they take down.
Let me tell you, I kind of came to a realization this weekend, as I think a lot of people did too. What would have made sense for the Democrats, in my opinion, and when you really think about it, it just goes to show that they really are opponents to anything free speech. I think if they really wanted a snowball's chance of getting their base rallied up, because it didn't work with Biden and it had to be artificial, and clearly it's artificial with Kamala Harris, by all means, it should have made sense to go for RFK Jr. I mean, one thing I've learned since he's done the endorsement, and I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of most of his policies, but one thing I've learned is that he really had a strong following. And you come to question, well, if he had such a strong following and you had people who said, wow, he's a simple-minded approach Democrat who comes from a legacy family, why is it that he's never really given the time of day? I mean, he gets denied Secret Service. He gets denied most interviews unless he goes on non-traditional formats like a Tucker Carlson. And the Democrats at every point even his own family try to shut him up. It's one thing to have political differences, but I mean, his family condemns him. And the truth is because he doesn't want to fall in line with some of the established ideals that the Democrats are holding on to. And their ideals are, we're not going to tolerate free speech. We're going to answer to elites and those in giant corporations that fund our companies. And also, by the way, anytime you have a difference of opinion on a certain policy we have, you're out. You're shuttered out. You're blacked out. And I think the fact that him, or then even Tulsi Gabbard, who was a former Democrat, same thing, switched independent because she didn't share those radical views, are now going over to Trump. Elon Musk, too, how you just mentioned it. He was not some staunch Republican or conservative. He's still
a Democrat.
He's a Democrat. At one point, we have to remember, too, Trump was a Democrat. And I think the reason you have this turning away when you step aside on policies and ideologies and preference of when should someone get abortion, when should someone not. I mean, I don't agree with RFK's abortion stance. But one thing I think those small group, right, because I just said a majority of people in power hate free speech. And then you got that small subsect that say, hey, if we start really getting rid of the First Amendment and just shuffling it down, we will not have a country that is free by any means. People are going to live in fear and survival, as we've said in episodes, rather than the idea that you could be independent and make something of yourself. So the fact that Trump is racking up endorsements to that level and in that degree, I think is a showcase to how people are framing it as the unity party. I mean, he's got Musk, he's got RFK, he's got Tulsi. Zuckerberg making that admission, I think, is a huge step in the I don't want to be associated with where this is going. Mm-hmm. And he still has a lot to fix up on Facebook. But I think there is coming to a realization point that the Democrats, it's not just so much that we want tampons in bathrooms and, abort your baby when you want. It's coming down to, it's going to be what we say. And if you're not for it, have fun behind bars.
But just as a little side note about Zuckerberg, I don't believe that Zuckerberg is coming out with this letter now because he feels guilty and he wants to right the ship and he doesn't like where things are going. He has been playing this censorship game for a very, very long time. He is a scumbag just like the rest of them, and I ain't giving him a damn pass at all. Let me tell you why Zuckerberg, in my opinion, just wrote that letter. A, he's trying to cover his ass. And remember something. He is loaded up with lawyers. That is one of the biggest companies in the world. You think he just penned that letter and put it out on the internet just by saying, hey, let's see if this sticks? He sat there with the whole legal team. They went down every single thing of what they could get away with, where they can toe the line. Let me tell you why Mark Zuckerberg wrote that letter the way he is. Because Mark Zuckerberg is starting to become a mature adult. And he's looking around and he realizes the fact that he's created one of the biggest companies that has ever been in our lifetime. But the problem is that people hate him. They absolutely hate him. They use his product, but they hate it. And the only reason why they hate him and they hate it is because there was nowhere else to go. Now you got somebody like Elon Musk. Elon Musk comes in, saves Twitter from Jack Dorsey, changes it to X, says this is this free speech platform that the entire world can rely on. I'm never going to change my ways. And people love him. People adore him. Everybody hates Zuckerberg. They hate him on the left. They hate him on the right. And he sits there and he says, you know what? My legacy is that I'm going to go down. I'm going to be hated. I don't want to be hated. Look at Elon Musk. He's loved. I want to be loved. And he's trying slowly but surely, including his little apology to the president of the United States called Donald Trump, his little apology about putting him on the sidelines. Let's not forget that Zuckerberg put Trump's account on censorship mode completely and once and for all. You're out. And he dictated like he's some freaking god of when it is that Trump could come back. Zuckerberg could stick his finger up his own ass and twirl on it because he's a piece of garbage. He has destroyed people and destroyed lives. This isn't like me saying, well, I wonder whether or not, there should really be contraception and there shouldn't be contraception for free. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people died during COVID. People who were married for 50, 60, 70 years. I know what this is like. I've been with one woman since I'm 14 years old. I couldn't imagine if my wife was sick in a hospital and they told me I couldn't go in. Let me tell you something. I would have gone in that hospital. I'm not going to tell you how because they'll be knocking on my door. But you're going to tell me that you're going to keep me from going to see the only person I've loved my entire life, who I built a whole life on, because you're talking about some freaking cooties that's no different than a flu? You could go F yourself. So you know what? He was complicit in that piece of crap. He was the ringleader on it. So I don't feel bad for him. I don't want to hear his little BS. I don't want to see him surfing on his surfboard on 4th of July. As far as I'm concerned, I wish a great white shark would have came up and bit his ass, because that's what he deserves. So you know what? He's never going to be loved. He's always going to be hated. He censored people. He stole their money. That scumbag piece of crap stole my money. I advertised my hard-working money I put into his platform because he told me that it was, everybody gets to express themselves. Yeah, bullshit. The only way you could express yourself is if you think Mark Zuckerberg and the Democrats are groovy and rosy. Somebody like me who's going to ask questions, he's going to take my money to advertise, boost this and boost that, build your presence on Facebook. He took $200,000 of my money, this piece of shit, and then he's going to turn around and he's going to censor me and limit my reach. He didn't give me back my $200,000. And if I have a lawyer call him, and if I have my lawyer go on him, I'm going to lose because I'm one guy paying $4.50 an hour to some lawyer who, even though he's going to try to do the right thing for me, it's going to rack up to be $100,000. He's got freaking 1,000 lawyers on staff, all top lawyers, who are just going to run me into the ground. So this guy is a piece of shit. He's no better than the Taliban as far as I'm concerned.
Look, I completely agree. He's complicit, and this is definitely not a, you should go embrace Zuckerberg kind of sentiment here. I think the timing of it is definitely critical that, he is making a full admission that one of the biggest companies in the world basically abided by Harris and Biden's demands to censor all information during a period of time, like how you just mentioned. People couldn't go see their grandmother or their wife or their husband or their family member. And if this is I'm coming out of good conscience to speak now, especially before the election, where were you for the last 4 years? That's my question. Right. And clearly, too, this is obviously he knows Elon Musk is way more favored. And look, there's stuff that Musk does that I'm not even crazy about either, but I will always give him the kudos for him basically unshackling, Twitter or X, one of the other biggest platforms in the world, because think about how much we get to learn through that platform that Facebook would not let see the time or light of day. So if this is him trying to make a kumbaya to everyone that he screwed over, it's a little too late. But the question becomes, is he actually going to follow a path of trying to maybe do right or reach out to someone like you and be like, hey, I really screwed you over the last few years? Or is this him just trying to save face because everyone knows at this point the honeymoon phase is over? Kamala is an absolute disaster. I keep seeing clips that make me question if she's hitting the bottle while she's on the campaign trail. And he realizes that he has been playing for the wrong team. And even so, I don't think he should be absolved for anything that he's done for the last 4 years.
These Democrats, these liberal frickin' minded morons are all the same. They come up with one thing and they come up with another thing and they run with it, whether it's defund the police or whether it's censorship, Trump sucks. And then after their stupidity comes back and bites them in the ass, that's when they do the flip the script. It's too late. I don't want to hear anything from this guy. As far as I'm concerned, his stock's at $500. I hope it drops to $5. I hope every single last human being who has stock in this guy's company loses. I hope that this piece of crap ends up in jail. I don't want to hear his letter. I don't want to hear his lawyers. I don't want to hear shit. He wants to take me off his platform. You could stick your finger up your ass and twirl on it. We don't need it. We don't want you. We don't need you. Elon Musk and Rumble and private things like Team DML is the future of this country. And you know what? We started this off, that poor woman getting dragged out in front of her 10-year-old. Shame on that police officer whoever he is, shame on you for doing that to that lady. She did nothing. We got illegal aliens in this country, killing people, stealing stuff, gang members, just hunting people down in the middle of the night. And we're going to take some mother who has enough guts to stand up there and voice her grievances as she is entitled to in the United States of America. And we're going to drag her out like she's some freaking border crossing cartel member. That guy's a piece of shit as far as I'm concerned. They all are. Same thing, the guy who's sitting up there with his Deos, making the rules. Who do you think you are? He puts his pants on one leg at a time. He's a little tiny wimp. Police officer, I can't, sticks and stones are hurting my bones, and the names are even worse. That's what he is. He's a little wimp. They're little tiny, they're the crap that you step on in the mud. Okay? They're the dog feces on the bottom of your shoe. That's who these people are.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, when you get elected officials, power gets to their head, even if it's on a small scale, such as a town council. So, without their police force, they're really freaking nothing. I mean, imagine if that guard did actually stand up and do the right thing and say, hey, man, let her speak. But she's not, calling or threatening violence. She's making a good point and raising good questions. And here you are trying to silence her as if we're the Soviet Union. So, my thing is that we need to enter an era where when you're elected, you are literally working for the people, not your self-interest, not corporate interests, not big donor interests, and not for the interests of, the deep state or those that want to promote these ideals that free speech is the devil. Like, you need to be elected and serve, the people, the mother who's standing up there and saying, hey, I got some real big problems with the way this town council is being run. And instead, you're going to silence her and shut her up. You should be speaking to her and hearing her out and saying, well, this is why we do this. Like, have the actual debate, because we are going into an era where even the way he said it in that clip, he says, you won't be able to do this in the future. And how we see it in the UK, trying to shut people up. In France, they just arrested the CEO of Telegram. And then the Vindman guy from the US, who was on the National Security Council, says, Musk, we're going to be coming for you next if you don't, start being a little more accountable. It's crazy. I mean, the messaging has just been so diluted into if you start speaking freely, you better watch out. It's scary times.
Let me tell you another thing that is totally overlooked in all the news reports that are going on right now, but not with this guy. So when you're talking about Mark Zuckerberg, showing regret, I wish we, if we had another chance, we would have done it differently. No, you wouldn't have. You're so full of it. Here's the fact. The U.S. government is basically bought and paid for by the drug companies, and so is Facebook. 50%, more than 50% of all the advertisements you see on cable television and that you see on Google and Facebook and all these places, they're all from Big Pharma. So you think that Big Pharma is going to sit there and put hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in Facebook's coffers and allow Mark Zuckerberg to take somebody like Tucker Carlson or Dan Bongino or Dennis Michael Lynch and say anything negative at all about their vaccine? No way, we'll pull our advertising money from you. So that's what it is. This guy is not only chasing the ideology of the left, he is chasing the money of the pharma companies. Same thing, FDA, USDA, all the stuff. I just listened to a podcast yesterday. I was blown away by the information that I was given. I suggested to everybody. Tucker Carlson did a interview with a brother and sister crew. Casey's the last name or something like that. It's a little tough to listen to because they speak so quickly, these two. But they're explaining about how Big Pharma and the U.S. government is basically tossing the people of the United States into the hospital. That's what it is, because it's this recurring revenue model, right? Get kids sick early on, put them on a medicine that's going to make them lose weight, Ozempic. What? Are you kidding me? Put the kid outside and start teaching him how to play kickball like when it was when I was a kid. Don't have him sitting inside. When I was a kid, nobody was obese. Now all these kids are obese. Oh, we'll give them a drug that they're going to have to stay on for the rest of their life. Oh, you've got high cholesterol. Your cholesterol's at 300, even though your body is supposed to be producing it for whatever reason. We're going to put you on a statin. You got to stay on it for the rest of your life. What do you mean the rest of my life? Isn't it going to fix it? Nope. But if you don't have it, you're going to have a heart attack. Well, what about if I just eat right and I lower it that way? Nope. You got to take the statin. That's the whole thing. Get them sick, get them on a program, feed them a medicine, and they're customers for the rest of their life. You explain to me this question. Why does a baby have to wind up getting a vaccine for hepatitis B within the first day of its life. Hepatitis B is spread by one of two different ways, either through a dirty needle or through sex. Do you know a single day-year-old child that's going to deal with either one of that? And when doctors were asked, why are you imposing this? Why are you doing this? Which, by the way, the drug companies are guaranteed that every person that's born in the United States of America, they're going to wind up getting paid from the U.S. government or whoever else it is going to be who's going to pay them for that shot. So you tell me, why do I need to do this? Do you know what one of the doctor's responses was? We've got to make sure that when they grow up, that, God forbid, they're like on the playground and they step on a dirty needle, that they don't get hepatitis B. And the guy said, has there ever been a single case of somebody doing that? No. Really? Yeah. You got to be kidding me. We got drugs, we got disease, we got terror, we got bioweapons coming through our border right now, and this is the shit that you're going to worry about? So you know what? I don't want to hear anything about Mark Zuckerberg, about, oh, yeah, change your heart, this and that. He's the devil. They're all the devil. Do not fall for it. Elon Musk and Rumble deserve everybody's effort. Don't put your video up on YouTube. It's going to get censored. Stop thinking about the couple of cents you're going to make per video. Put it over at Rumble. Give those people the opportunity to make the money. They're the ones standing up for you. Don't go on Facebook anymore. Go on X, go on Twitter. Yeah, is it a little clumsy compared to what Facebook is? Yeah, it's a new interface. It's like anything else. You got to get used to it. But you will have more fun on X than you'll ever have on Facebook. That's that. And then you want to talk about these people, the change of heart. All of a sudden, he's going to have a change of heart. You want to talk about changes of heart? You want to talk about liars who will look you right in the face and say they have a change of heart? Kamala Harris has got the audacity. I mean, I'd like to just say it. She's got the balls to now say that if she's elected president, she is going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build a border wall.
It's a joke at this point. I literally think her handlers just sit around and be like, all right, what are some little things we could steal from Trump's campaign, throw it out there, and, keep the waters calm and then see, who's actually going to be a big fan. I mean, you want to talk about something that is just so artificial. I feel every day that her support is just artificial, like candy that you make in a factory. There is no, Don Lemon, of all people, I wish we had the clip, was just on MSNBC, and Jen Psaki, she worked for Biden, was asking about, these videos he's been doing of asking people on the street who they're voting for. And she said, like, oh, what are they feeling about Harris? He literally says, if you go to deep liberal, Philadelphia, you might get some, but anywhere else, some people don't even know anything about her. It just shows that this propping of the the honeymoon phase of, trying to redefine her, say that, she's the VP, the border czar, the one who's going to, save women's rights. No one gives an actual damn, because people are saying, what has she done in the last 4 years that has made my life better? It hasn't. It's been worse. So what is she going to do now with 4 whatever, how many years, if she's elected president, that she's just going to do the last 4? And the truth is, she won't do anything better. She's just going to make it progressively worse.
And now she wants to change the rules.
Yes, on the debate.
She wants to change the rules on the debate. So they all agreed that they were going to have the same rules as they had on CNN, which... and look, I'll be the first one to say, I didn't like the rules when I heard about them, but then when I watched the debate, it was one of the most well-managed debates I've ever seen. Your microphone goes off when I'm talking, and then vice versa. We're going to wind up standing up, no sitting down, no notes, and this is the way it's going to be. It's going to be a professional sort of debate. And what? Now she wants to change it. She wants the microphones back on, she wants there to be notes, and she wants to be able to sit down. And the reason why she wants that to happen is because she wants to keep on interrupting Trump time and time again, so this way they never have to talk about her record. She doesn't have to sit there and just start going over answers and giving people explanations and deep down dives into what her economic policy is. Nothing at all. She just wants to play it as a game to where she keeps on telling him he's a convicted felon.
Oh, and don't forget, I think another reason too, and some people have speculated this, when she had that debate with Mike Pence back in 2020, and they had the mics live at all times, and Pence would try to interject because she was spewing lies. She had her little viral I'm speaking, Mr. Vice President moment. I think she wants that. She wants the little sound clips where she could be the sassy woman who wants to because, I can't blame Trump. When you hear constant lies coming out of someone's mouth, you want to set the record straight. So, but I think the bigger key here is that she wants a little cheat sheet because obviously she can't just, spew her ideas naturally.
Listen, it goes deeper than this, all right? Because I have gotten this right every single time over the last 6 months when I'm predicting this out. And let me tell you who's behind that, the changing of the rules idea. That is Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Barack Obama is advising that campaign. Barack Obama knows that the single most dangerous thing to Kamala Harris is Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris gets up on stage and she starts having diarrhea of the mouth, which she has had almost every single day since she's been an adult, I'm sure, he knows that it's going to be, Biden 2.0. The first debate was the implosion of Biden, which he wanted. It was by design. He doesn't want it to happen again. He doesn't want the world to see, voters to see who the real Kamala Harris is, who can't get out a sentence. So what he does is he says, change the rules on him. Because you know what Trump's going to do? Trump's ego's too big. He's going to push back and he's going to say, screw you, we're not doing the debate. And then she'll say, okay, we're dropping out. And then therefore you don't have to do the debate. And she could go through her whole way through November where she's never doing a single live interview. She's not sitting down with a reporter. She gets to dictate it on her own. That is by design. She doesn't really want to change the rules. It's Barack Obama who's saying, let's change the rules and hoping Trump drops out. I hope he doesn't drop out because let me tell you one thing that Trump would do. She now wants to make a border wall, which is total BS like you know and I know. He is going to remind her of what she has said 5 million times about the border wall being useless and it was an ego project and all this other different jazz. We've got a minute of her, 1 minute, a little less than a minute of her on The View, and then another interview where she absolutely just pummels the idea of a wall. So she's going to have to explain what's changed since then and now. Ryan, do you got the video? Hit it.
This issue is about a vanity project for this president. Right. And it is a problem of his own making. Right. And listen, when I travel this country, folks have plenty enough problems that they need their president to focus on instead of a wall that, by the way, because I was a prosecutor for many years, including the Attorney General of California, I specialize on transnational criminal organizations. Yeah. That wall ain't gonna stop them. No. You don't need to build a wall. This is a crisis of his own making. And by definition, just plain speak, basic English language definition, it is not an emergency. What's going to end up happening is that he will end up, without any question, if he proceeds, we're going to be looking at a situation where, in particular, homeowners and landowners in places like New Mexico and Texas are probably going to look at government taking their land. We're looking at military resources being focused, again, on the president's vanity project instead of focused on real national security issues.
She's another one, way too late on her message. You know, if people who are watching live on X or even anybody who listens to the show and follows us on X, we're x.com/trustdml. I just posted a video yesterday, one of my older clips, and it shows how it is that the bad people who are coming in through the border, prayer rugs, everything else like that. We know these people are coming in from all over the place. And in the video, I have a terrorist from across the way, so to say, and he is explaining that all it takes is one, Islamic nut to take a bag this big of anthrax, 4 pounds, bring it in. It will kill 300,000 Americans in one single day. This woman allowed that to happen for 3.5 years on steroids, and now she's going to have the audacity, after going on all these television shows and making fun of Trump and poking at him and making it sound as if a border wall does nothing at all, and that the worry about the border is some stupid ego play on Donald Trump. Meanwhile, we got women being raped, we got women being killed, we got children being killed, fentanyl poisoning, terrorists, you name it, and now all of a sudden she's going to change for a border wall. Anybody who believes this woman is an absolute imbecile. On top of that, remember, she comes from the radical state of California, and the radical state of California couldn't be getting more radical than what Dennis is going to tell you right now, because illegal aliens, despite the fact that California being the #1 state of homelessness in the country, California is now this close to giving mortgages of $150,000 to illegal aliens. Denny, what do we got?
Yeah, it's a program being introduced by Gavin Newsom and the California Assembly, literally called California Dream for All Loan Program, where it's a state-funded program that provides 20% in down payment assistance up to $150K. Here are the requirements. You got to be a first-time home buyer or a first-generation home buyer. You have to be within a certain income limit. And, oh, by the way, you could totally be an illegal immigrant and apply for this program and be eligible for it. And the excuse by that, I mean, there was some Democrat assemblyman who kind of explained why, and it's the most poor-ass excuse you could possibly imagine. We felt that there were complexities and questions that many in the immigrant community would have. Hence, we just want to make sure it's eligible for no matter what your status is. So essentially, it is a just poor excuse to just say, hey, you could be, someone who just crossed over, and if you want to apply and you're a first-time home buyer, you're good to go.
So, this is something that's likely going to go through because, first of all, California has a supermajority in terms of Democrats. So it's going to go through. Just like we get things passed right through here in Florida because we have the same situation, it's going to go right through. So now it's going to come down to Gavin Newsom, whether or not he wants to sign that into law. Let's just remember a few things about California that we shouldn't forget when he goes to make this decision. First of all, California is running at a massive loss. They've got no money, all right? They're in massive debt. Their taxes are through the roof. The highest taxes in the nation are in California. They've got the most homelessness. They've got the most illegal immigration. That entire place is a train wreck on steroids like nothing we've ever seen before. Now, let's not forget, they promised black people that they were going to get reparations. Where did that go? They got none of it. Why? Because Gavin Newsom knew that if he did something like that, he'd never win on a national stage. So the only hope you've got in California is that Gavin Newsom prick of a human being, his vanity, because he wants to see himself in the White House. He pretends as if he doesn't. He, in the back of his mind, knows that Kamala Harris doesn't have a snowball's chance of hell in winning this election. Trump's going to win. He sees himself going up against J.D. Vance 4 years from now. So the good news is for California, it probably won't pass because he's going to want to keep his powder dry. He'll keep on pushing it off. But if he doesn't, if he goes in the other direction and he signs it, then we should be scared to all hell, because that means he knows that the illegal aliens are voting in elections, and he's got 50 to 60 million of them nationwide that he's going to be able to appeal to and say, I gave you mortgages when I had American citizens sleeping in tents and defecating in the streets of California.
You got to say, right, like, I think California is quite literally the blueprint, no pun intended on blue there, for what a almost socialist-controlled nation could look like. I mean, if every state had the same principles as California, we would just be a lawless nation. We would have uncontrolled homelessness. Unless, you're an illegal immigrant, then don't worry, the state's got your back, and we're going to put you in a house. Doesn't matter what your background is, if you're not vetted, if you're a criminal, if you're a murderer. I mean, they even have that program that's trying to get put through that if you're a one-time murderer, don't worry about it. Maybe you're eligible for release. Like you said, they're running on a deficit. They support, crazy transgender surgeries. Elon Musk, I mean, we just talked about him. He finally, I think it was 2 years ago when he first acquired X, he's like, we're going to stick it out in San Francisco because that's where the headquarters has always been. We're not going to move. He just pulled the plug. He said, it is just too much. Like, based on the policies and the crime there, we are gone. And the San Francisco town council cheered it. Like, usually when you lose a giant company like that in your state, you should be like, oh man, that's a loss. They cheered the fact that they're gone. They really do support destruction. Like,
they do destroy.
They actually value The idea, like, they are that kid who goes to the beach and ruins the sandcastle that was built. I mean, you put hours into it, you really build. I mean, you've seen it, those sandcastles. They're the ones who come through and start kicking it, and they're like, we destroyed it because it's fun.
Well, that's demonic.
Yeah.
So not all's lost. But I want people to remember this. You got Kamala Harris saying today that she's going to wind up building a border wall. This is the same woman, the Biden-Harris administration. Remember, she is the border czar that just put through an executive order to make it so this way illegal aliens who are part of a family where there's a U.S. citizen, that they would get amnesty. She's giving amnesty programs in the right hand and now bullshitting you and telling you she's going to build a wall in the left hand. She wants to have it both ways. The media is running cover for her. But thank God that amnesty has been put on pause because in Texas, and you got the details on this, in Texas, a judge put a stay on the order. They put a stay on the order. There is absolutely going to be no amnesty right now until they revisit this whole thing.
Yes.
Dogs barking in the back.
Yes,
Sorry, we take the dogs every day.
So what's going on in Texas right now is that a federal judge has put a pause on the Biden administration policy that would give spouses of U.S. citizens legal status without having the first leave the country, dealing at least a temporary setback to one of the biggest presidential actions to ease a path to citizenship in years. It was ordered by U.S. District Judge J. Campbell Barker. It was led by the Republican attorneys general, and it challenged the program that could benefit an estimated 500,000 immigrants in the country, plus about 50,000 of their children.
Right. So let's make illegal aliens.
Yes.
Not the immigrants. Because let me tell you something. Some of my best friends are immigrants who went through the channel the right way. So I'm never going to mix the two. But with that said, listen, this is, thank God for Texas doing something like that, slowing it down. Why does Kamala Harris want to treat our citizenship as if it's like the little toy that you get in a Happy Meal? That's not what it is. People died for this citizenship. They gave up the greatest thing that you can possibly give up, which is your life, to defend freedom and to defend citizenship, and that it means something and it's tangible. She just wants to throw it away as if it's nothing. Meanwhile, also in Texas, bring up your little stat on this, they just cleaned up the voter rolls. If you did not see my podcast yesterday, we're going to play a clip here for you in a couple of seconds. It is mind-blowing what happened when I interviewed Catherine Olbrecht from True the Vote. But they just cleaned up 1 million, that's 1 million names on the Texas voter rolls, of which, you got it, illegal aliens were on the voter rolls. Dennis, do the chart. What are the numbers right now for the people that were removed? Where do they fall into category?
I would say this is the breakdown from the official website of the office of the Texas governor. Over 6,500 non-citizens have been removed. Over 6,000 voters who have a felony conviction have been removed. This one's big. Over 457,000 deceased people have been removed. Over 463,000 voters on the suspension list have been removed. Over 134,000 voters who responded to an address confirmation notice that they had left the state have been removed. Over 65,000 voters who failed to respond to a notice of examination have been removed. And over 19,000 voters who've requested to cancel their registration have also been removed.
So let me tell you what happens, these Democrats, what they know what they're doing and how they play the game. What they do is they know these voter rolls are filled with 1 million people who don't exist or shouldn't be on them. And what happens is those illegal aliens are allowed to vote under those names, especially in states when there are no voter ID requirements in place. So do not mistake why it is that you just saw millions upon millions upon millions of people over the last couple of years come into this country. It's about diluting the meaning of citizenship. It is about taking away things from you and me and giving it to them, pulling us off that American dream, sort of flying eagle, and now all of a sudden going into the little sad puppy who's saying, do I get my dependency check? That's what it is. They want to have the votes, and they want to know that once they get those votes and those illegal votes, it's never, ever going to go away. I want to play a clip from yesterday, a True the Vote. Now, True the Vote has been around for probably about a decade, and they try to bring awareness of what it is that's going on in the world of elections. And I know a lot of people out there right now have a lot of concerns about what's going to happen in this coming up election. And I asked her, of all the things she's ever seen, what keeps her up the most at night? And her answer is going to blow you away. Ryan, play the clip.
So you've been doing this for a while. And if you just had to say the one time you looked at something, and excuse my French because there's no other way of saying it, you came away and saw something that was on the fraudulent level, on the cheating level, and it made you say, holy shit. What is it?
Our exposure of CONIC, a Chinese Communist front that runs elections in some of the largest counties and states and military ballots all over this country, which we gave to the FBI, worked with the FBI for 18 months, and then they let us drop into the grease and watch me to go to prison over it. That's what I think is the most explosive thing that that is known, and that is a threat to our national security and is being allowed to continue knowingly by the leadership in the Biden administration.
Can you give a little bit of an indication of what that actually means? I mean, what are they doing?
Sure. So they run the nuts and bolts. CONIC is a software setup started in public schools. It's also used by our military. But CONIC is sort of the Huawei of elections. It's being run out of Beijing, and anything that you put into your election process, and let's just say Los Angeles County, which uses CONIC end to end, its full complement of products. They are storing all of your election worker information, all of your banking information about election workers, how you're going to get paid, all of your emergency contact information, all of the scheduling, all of that's housed and run out of Beijing. All of your inventory of your equipment, all of the passwords to the equipment, all of the management of your ingress and egress of facilities. This is systems level logistics software being run out of the same server set that the People's Congress of China's elections are run off of, run on the Unicom backbone out of Beijing. 100% true, and you can find it all on our website. Known to the FBI.
Why would we do that? I mean, we're the United States of America. I know we don't manufacture things anymore because it's a lot cheaper to go buy a coffee mug from made in China than made in Pennsylvania. But I mean, why? I mean, we're America. I mean, we've got Google, we've got Facebook, we come up with things. You and I right now are on a live stream. I still don't understand the technology, how it does it to where it doesn't get interrupted. I mean, explain to me, why are we using that? Why are we using that?
It's just a lack of awareness. They respond to requests for proposal. The people that are assessing those responses are not sophisticated enough to do appropriate pen testing. The standards around federal requirements for national security and not working with enemy states is discarded. It's just a flippant disregard for the level of security that must accompany elections. We haven't taken it seriously enough, and this is what has happened. And sadly, we tried to work with the FBI on this and did what we knew to do, the only thing we knew to do, and I bear the scars of that. So that's the greatest thing that we've come across. Now, of many, we have come across many things, but that set aside everything else, that alone is a showstopper.
That was the holy shit moment.
Wow. I mean, the Democrats, whether it's the voting, the border, censorship, these are the most dangerous people in the world. I know a lot of times we look at ISIS, we look at Putin, we even look at Iran, China, or North Korea, especially the fact that they have nukes. Never forget the Democrats have nukes too. These people are the most dangerous human beings in the world. And when they're not dangerous, they're inept. The fact that we've got our elections being tied back to China, Beijing on any level has got to be the most questionable thing that I have ever been faced with as a U.S. citizen. It doesn't make any sense. And so in my world that I come from, you know, I'm street smart, Denny. I didn't go to college, and I'm very happy that I didn't, because I take that as a stamp of honor. The fact that I didn't have some person who couldn't survive in the real world coming and telling me what to do. I always love when you have these professors, an economics professor. You know, listen, if you were good at economics, you know where you'd be? You wouldn't be in a classroom. You'd be freaking sailing off on a ship somewhere on your own 200-foot yacht instead of trying to tell me about how it is that, you know, communism is better than America. So long story short, you know, the Democrats are the detriment to this country, and we need to get Donald J. Trump elected. And every time that he puts something out that I think is worthy of it, we need this show to highlight it. So we're going to play right here before we say goodbye to you, and then I'll give the last word to Denny before we sign off. Trump just put out a brand new 30-second spot that is absolutely brilliant. For people who are only listening to the podcast, just imagine just different subsets of Kamala Harris in little picture frames and TV sets, and he changes it all together to say, we love inflation, and we created it, and we are proud of it. Ryan, play that commercial.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes. That is called Bidenomics. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's not much left at the end of the month. Bidenomics is working. The price of housing has gone up. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. And we are very proud of Bidenomics. Everyday prices are too...
So, Denny, what's your take on that commercial before we say goodbye?
My take is that I want to issue a litmus test to everyone, because I'm sure most of our followers here are not voting for that woman. If you know someone in your life who is voting for Kamala, or if you happen to meet someone from now until the election, I want you to ask them why they're voting for her. And they can't give the answer of Trump, first female president, first black female president, anything gender or skin, and to save democracy. Those 4 points. Ask them, you know, despite those 4, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? Now, if they say, well, she has a background as a prosecutor, then get into the specifics and say, what specifically during her time in California kind of propels you into that you would want to vote for her? Seriously. And then, you know, go from there and see if you can actually get a legitimate answer from her, because I couldn't personally tell you what a concrete policy of hers is. She either says she doesn't want a border, now she says she wants a border. She never mentioned anything about tax on tips. If anything, she helped the bill not to have that happen. Now she says no tax on tips. She is a conundrum, and that ad is proof of it. She's a hypocrisy, a living hypocrisy. So that'd be my litmus test. Go up to anyone that you know is voting for Kamala, ask them to answer that question without those 4 bullet points. I don't think they can answer it.
Yeah, and then just remind people that when you're talking to them and they can't come up with anything, which they won't, there'll be a deer in headlight, and they're always going to refer back to Trump. It's just going to be what it is. Just say to them, well, even though you can't name one thing that Trump did that was racist, I hope you realize that you will have no money, no border, and no freedom of speech. And just remind them, send them a text and say, look at this when it happens to you, because inevitably it will. That's it for Dennis, myself, and Ryan on the controls. We want to thank everybody on Team DML for watching live. Same thing with the people on Rumble and on X. We're now trying to build up our channel on X. So just real quick, if you are not on X following us, you just go to x.com/trustdml. If you want to become a Team DML member and always get the videos, then that's pretty easy. You go to teamdml.com. That helps us stay in business. We don't do the advertising thing. We're not going to feed Google. We're not going to feed Facebook or these advertisers. We're not going to feed them money so this way they can come back later and try to kill us off. So the only way we stay in business is through a membership that costs as little as $30 for the year. If you want to join it, teamdml.com. As far as tomorrow, God willing, we'll be with you again. We appreciate your time. And until then, may God bless you. May God bless our troops, President Trump, and these United States.
And for today's Team DML blessing, we'd like to give it to Cheryl Smith, who just passed away over the weekend. She was a Team DML member for almost a decade. So
Cheryl Smith,
blessing to her.
It's funny. We got the email yesterday that she passed away, and Ashley came in and said, Dad, this name sounds so familiar. And I went back, and I just searched for all my emails. And the only emails I ever got from her happy birthday, Merry Christmas, have a great Valentine's Day. Just one of those human beings that only knew how to be positive. She's with us here today, there's no doubt, and that's why we love, even though we have thousands upon thousands of Team DML members, it's like the biggest family in America. So God bless you, Cheryl. We know you're watching. We hope we made you proud. We'll talk to you soon.
The Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.